So, welcome to the show. And before we get started, I have a few questions for you. Number one, how did you rate the fall off? Was it the best work that you've got from J. Cole yet? Was it more of the same? Or was it not what you were really expecting? Did Trevor Noah do too much at the Grammys? And should we care about anything that Nicki Minaj has to say about life, let alone politics? We will get into that and more right after this.
Squee bop, dee dop, she dop, ooh. Yeah, watch the duty. We got the late night shift live. Yeah, it's the late night shift live. It's the late night shift live. Yeah. And now for your host, the incomparable Anthony Moore.
Top of the morning, the afternoon, and the evening to you, whomever you may be, wherever you may be watching, looking, or listening. It is your boy, your host, Anthony Moore. Ant Mo, for those of you who may know for sure, and welcome to the Late Night Shift Live. Now, for those of you who may be wondering what the Late Night Shift Live is about, I'm glad you asked. But before we get into that, let me go to my comments and see who we have in here, and we're gonna get into it before we get into it. You feel me? All right. We got my boy Connor in the building. It's a little late for you, dog. But you said what's up? Glad you stopped by for the show tonight. Miss Reese said good evening. Connor said the Seahawks, but no one should be talking about politics at the Grammys. I got some thoughts on that. W intro. I appreciate you, my boy. I appreciate you, man. So, for my first time watchers of the Late Night Shift Live, I love you from the bottom of my corazon. That is hard in Spanish for those of you who care to know. For my faithful few like Connor and Miss Reese, I love you from the bottom of my corazon as well. I had it mixed up, but we're going to move on and get into it. But welcome to the Late Night Shift Live, a show dedicated to shifting the culture's perspective with unadulterated truth and a little bit of grace, one story at a time. We're not salacious, nor are we gossipy in nature, even though y'all gonna get it confused. Somebody gonna say something mean and nasty every show. It is what it is. But we are not nasty. We're not salacious or gossipy in nature. It just is what it is. So the goal is to keep it real. Real relevant, real player, and real live. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Late Night Shift Live. So, with that being said, the fall off. We have different levels to the fall off. We have J. Cole dropping a new album that I've listened to quite a few times. And at the third segment of the show, we will get into an in-depth conversation about that. For those of you who love music, who you love rap, if you love J. Cole, he's trapping out the trunk. He is driving around America, selling his CD out the trunk. That sounds like a good idea to me. I love any artist that's gonna do something different, but we ain't even getting into J. Cole right now. We have to get into the monologue. So, with that being said, unrest is calculated, whether it's God at play or the enemy. Not much happens by happenstance. The black issues that are real, pertinent, and justified have been issues that are the greatest evidence that we are not the fixers of our deepest, darkest, most painful issues. Black History Month has always been a truth, but a painful reminder that it seems our best selves and best moments, our core Fundamental achievements are all, in fact, in the past. The rise and fall of Black Wall Street, the Tulsa bombings, have been a fearful knock at the door that, in quotations, I say, white people or the powers that be are always waiting and willing to conspire to destroy any attempts at togetherness and true success in the Black community. Now, it's always going to be better for the together, meaning that true inclusion is not accepting people into other bathrooms regardless of their gender. It is loving your brother despite your differences and treating those that look different from you perhaps just a little bit more better than you would treat yourself. Happy Black History Month. Go make human history. So, with that being said, let's get into Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah versus Nicki Minaj, and in quotations I put Donald Trump. Because regardless to whatever we think or we feel, we all know where the crux of that argument was coming from. Geared at Nicki Minaj for sure, on a humongous platform dedicated to some of the biggest and brightest stars in the music industry, Trevor Noah took aim at the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and Nicki Minaj. Now tell me what you think and feel about that in the comments. Was that foul? Was it necessary? Was this freedom of speech executed excellently? Let me know what you think, because I have my thoughts. And for those of you who I call my faithful few, of course, we are considered to be a part of the brain trust because we actually use our brains. In today's culture and society, we don't think. We watch 30, 60, and 90-second clips, and we yell at the top of our lungs what we think about that. We fall victim to clickbait and all manners of nonsense in the name of entertainment. So when I look at the Grammys, as I did, and I even look at a situation like the Kendrick Lamar situation, right, where he went home a very decorated man, and some people would say well-deserved. I sit on the fence because I don't necessarily know if it matters to me more that you get there based off of just dropping dope music that people can resonate with, or if it's off the back of pure hatred, speculation, and quite possibly multiple lies towards another Black man, I say in air quotes. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the beef, Drake and Kendrick Lamar had an epic showdown last year. And in the midst of that, a bunch of jokes about height and blackness were the root of a bunch of issues. But at the end of it, I'm not sure that there really was a winner. When there are allegations put out there about if you like women of a certain age, if you're Black or not, based off of where you're born or the origin of your mother, some of those things were quite out of pocket. Now, this is what our culture loves. So I'm not here to necessarily argue the point, but it was just interesting that on a night where Kendrick Lamar was celebrated, I'm not sure if he was celebrated for the right reasons. But anyway, we got a few comments over here. Let me get to the comments before I get into the show any further. Connor said, what Billie Eilish had to say about the stolen land was so dumb. I'm 20% Native American and our land was conquered and bought. Got to be careful there, Connor. I strongly disagree. White people are not trying to destroy Black people's reputation. So that is why I put quotations, because I believe that the narrative is always going to be from the Black man, myself, and this is where the hate comes in. The narrative is always going to be that the white man is the cause of all of the things that are going on. That's why I put that in air quotes and I said the powers that be. Because just the same as somebody being sold into slavery, and whether they knew that they were selling their brother and sister into slavery or not, it still happened, right? So it is what it is. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that I don't fully put the blame of Europeans or Anglo-Saxons, white, Caucasian, whatever you would like the name to be, as the reason that black people have ran into any type of issue. I believe that it plays some part. Let's be real here. But that's why I say quotations. If we go back and look through the annals of history, I would like to believe that a lot of those faces, whether they had masks on them or not, were Caucasian men. So anyway, we got our first numbskull in the building. What's up, bro? Your comment won't get highlighted. I have a document of our land being sold in my basement storage room. No shots fired. Hey, that's cool, brother. That's cool. That's cool, man. Sometimes you got to be careful with certain narratives, though. I will say that no one goes after Great Britain for conquering stuff, but when the U.S. expands, oh, America stole land. Yeah, I actually disagree with that. I believe that a lot of people absolutely take issue with a lot of people who stole things, but that's neither here nor there. So here's what I have to say about this whole Trevor Noah, Nicki Minaj situation, right? It amazes me how a people can be so polarized and impacted so negatively by what they claim to want. What do I mean by that? Trump, no matter how you slice it, represents freedom. Not in his thought process, but in his execution. He appears to do what he wants, how he wants, when he wants. Going rogue is desired when it's Obama handing out reparations. Every black person would love the idea of Obama handing out reparations when he served his 2 terms. But when it comes to not skin folk, everybody starts losing their minds. Shout out to Heath Ledger. You know what I'm saying? I've always stated that big business loves Trump because he represents growth, possibility, and whether it's for certain that it's for a certain demographic or not, that's neither here nor there. But the reposting of a video for any reason that has black people being represented or depicted as apes should never be tolerated or accepted. Justification for said actions warrants a prayer for his heart and a unified stance in the midterms for corrective actions. See, I see all of the people that get paid for cooning. And it's interesting, the people that can come on my platform and ask me, am I from the descendants of slaves and all of these things that mean nothing in the grand scheme of the messaging, because I do stand with and for people who look like me. But my allegiance and association will never stand solely by what my color is depicted. It defeats the purpose of, I don't know, greats like Martin Luther King, who had a desire for us to move in a way that really looked beyond paying attention to somebody's hue of their skin. Now, I'm never going to be the person who tells you that skin color doesn't matter, because it's hard to look at a human being and not see their color, no matter how saved you are, no matter how much you believe that you're an amazing human being. And it doesn't have to represent a bad thing. You just have to understand the reality in life as we live it. So justification for these said actions, like I said, will not be tolerated. Every major market has a stance that either unifies or separates us as a whole. Yet every award show, Super Bowl halftime show, and Facebook post serves as ammo for temp checks and fake outrage. just today, and it's a reason why I'm not on social media unless I'm posting something about a show or some type of content. People talking about blocking people and cutting people off because they don't see life through the lens that you choose to see life through. Let's be very clear. So much of what this country is supposed to represent never gets to have the legs to stand on, because whether you are white, whether you are European, whether you are Asian, black, Mexican, it doesn't matter. If somebody doesn't agree with you, they are in fact the worst person in the world. It never, what we see never stands, never actually holds up to what this country was said to be based and founded upon. Trevor Noah pushing the agenda against a black superstar female rapper should never fall into the highest levels of importance needed to be successful. Yet, time after time, there was something to be said about one Nicki Minaj or the president of the United States. Here's the thought that I had. If Nicki Minaj should shut up and stop talking about politics and supporting Trump openly, then LeBron James should just shut up and dribble. Blackfish should have never been raised at the Mexico City Games, the Olympics, 1968. And every freedom fought for, like voting rights and to be considered a complete human, should have never been sparked. Unfortunately, Trevor Noah missed the mark in this situation, all to be in favor of the masses. And we are still pitted against each other, which is truly the greatest travesty. So, if people don't have much thought on that, I bid you adieu on that segment. I will move forward, and we will get into this J. Cole segment. Now, the fall off. I got to be honest before I say anything else or go another further. Got to be honest. This album actually got better the more I listened to it. It kind of makes me mad because, not make me mad in that way, but it's kind of frustrating a little bit because I could have changed up every piece of notes that I made on this album. Now, for those of you who don't know, J. Cole, this was a 10-year run or span of him essentially reliving Fayetteville, North Carolina dreams, and accomplishing those dreams, and ultimately being able to reach the epitome of stardom as a rapper, becoming a husband and a father, and to really get to the end of it, appeared to be on a journey to either rediscover his love for rap again, or just coming to the conclusion that he doesn't love rap as he once did. So there are a lot of things to get into concerning the J. Cole album, but I'll start by saying this. This is a key factor that people must always remember when it comes to music, when it comes to art. And that is something that is overstated, but very, very true. Art is subjective. There are certain sayings that will always ring true. What you eat won't make me fill in the blank. And the dumbest arguments that folks make about most lyrical artists like a J. Cole or a Kendrick or a Jay Electronica or a Mos Def or a Common is that we are not smart enough to comprehend the messaging or the concepts. Rap is also about preferences. That's why even within certain genres, we have backpack rap, we have trap. It's this range of art that we can choose to subjectively take or leave. Rap is most effective when it's mainstream. I don't think people understand what the cost of making rap be so nuanced, what that actually means. The rap purists don't realize that without the freedom of expression and creativity, it will live in infamous folklore of genres like jazz or blues. Or even worse, for somebody who loves R&B, rap will spend most of its time trying to recreate and recapture it. You know, you hear people like Tyrese say, "We've lost the essence of what R&B is, rhythm and blues," or you know, it's like, "Oh, it's got to have a rapper on it," or whatever technicalities that people take issue with when it comes to the purity of what a genre can be. If rap doesn't trend over to Mexican America, white America, African, actually overseas, like continent of Africa, America, it doesn't hold a candle. Let's not forget that rap is a little bit over 50 years old at this point. So you have to stay true to what's made rap be what it is. The ability to evolve. Rap can't just be for the backpack rappers. It can't just be for the people who know how to string together sentences well. It has to be for the people who got a little slowness to them as well. And making us live in these pockets of rap, and I am taking you towards the thoughts of the J. Cole album. But at the end of the day, rap cannot just be for those who think they are so highbrow that mere mortals like ourselves can't relate to it. In most spaces, purity doesn't equate to longevity. This was clearly an album for J. Cole, for Jermaine Cole. Talking about people from a city that most people have only drove through, beefs, all of these things. Sonically, there was a lot to be left for, a lot to be desired from this album. And I get it. We're talking about T minus 72 hours since the album dropped. But you'll have a group of people who will say that he definitely did not disappoint with this album. I don't know if I feel the same, but we'll get into it. So I don't know if anybody else paid attention like I paid attention. The production was really rough, in my opinion. I'm not saying that this is the worst production that I've ever gotten. I'm saying that the production was lacking something of the 2014 Forest Hill Drive, which I believe was his best album ever, regardless of what you think about his catalog. And then you have the off season. The production on those albums was something that was beautiful. It was enjoyable. This was boom bap rap at its finest. Now one of my buddies on Facebook said that he doesn't think it was that boom bap, but I completely disagree. It is impossible to not listen to this, and I literally thought as I was listening to this album, man, this is 1990s rap in New York. So much of it conceptually matched up with, you know, if any of you who are familiar with Brown Sugar, when did you fall in love with hip hop? This was very when did you fall in love with hip hop for me. And if I'm being honest, I never fell in love with hip hop. I like hip hop. I like hip hop a lot. But my first love in this instance was absolutely rhythm and blues. And for those of you who say, well, you're not qualified to talk about rap, I'll tell you this. Most people lose their relevancy in certain topics by sheer fandom. Only talking about music from a standpoint which you love doesn't necessarily represent the people that it should. So I could take a little bit of every type of rap that you can put out there, literally. Mumble, trap, lyricism. But us feeling like we have to dumb ourselves, like it's almost like I have to like confine myself to the house for 24 hours to take in every piece of this 24 songs so that I can grasp what Cole was trying to tell me, kind of just takes away from the point of what makes people fall in love with what they actually do love. Sounds a bit dated, but of course, this was developed and executed over a 10-year span. And be honest with me, for those who may be watching, do you really believe that this is Cole's greatest work? An album that you spent 10 hours on, 10 years on? 10 years. In your heart of hearts, do you believe this was the crescendo to a career for one of the greatest rappers that has ever walked the planet? So, making music that is timeless, relatable, and impactful is the goal. I'm going to say that again. Making music that is timeless, relatable, and impactful is the goal. And what makes an album a classic ultimately? Relatability, timelessness, impactfulness. You're telling me you're going to listen to this album 10 years from now? And I get that we're talking about within this time frame, the time span of 72 hours. But you're going to listen to this album 3 weeks from now, let alone 3 years. I don't know. So to continue to get better with lyricism, production, anticipation, and execution is only reserved for the best of the best of the best. Here's one of my major takeaways from all of this. Jay-Z is the greatest rapper to ever live. On what was supposed to be his farewell to the game, he gave us the Black Album. Now, I don't know if you remember the Black Album, but I've always argued what made him the greatest is to consistently deliver over time. Now, nobody's going to put out a billion albums and a billion of those albums are all going to be amazing, through the roof, #1 Billboard charters. It doesn't work like that. People are human. But I got to agree with my boy Cash when he said, rappers and artists of this ilk, it's impossible for them to just put out straight trash albums. Now, I think Nas made a great attempt at that. I'm going to be honest. Nas is the only catalog that I couldn't personally finish. So if his catalog represents what they consider the essence of what rap is at its core, I don't think I would ever fall in love with it. But that's just me. That's just me. But back to this whole Jay-Z argument, or not even an argument, I just think it's a fact. To drop something like the Black Album and then come back with a 444, something relevant, something that's educational, something that's still good sonically to the ears, Jay-Z has to be the greatest rapper of all time. When I look at this Fall Off album, it appears to be a mixture of every version of Cole that we've ever listened to. He, J. Cole, Jermaine Cole, was trying to make up for letting Nas down. That's what I truly believe in my heart of hearts. And in him doing that, he let me down. I don't know if that matters much, but that's the truth. All in all, this is Crooked Smile, J. Cole. Only for your eyes, J. Cole. And although I could say that Crooked Smile J. Cole was dope with the messaging, I have to say that For Your Eyes Only, or Only for Your Eyes, whatever the name of that terrible album was was yet another reminder that as an artist, you cannot truly be who you want to be. As an artist, you cannot consistently be who you want to be. Not if you are an artist of substance. Not if you really have something to say to the masses. Let's never forget to pimp a butterfly. Following A Good Kid, Mad City, I was ultimately let down by this album. They trying to kill us. We need to free ourselves. We all slaves. I don't want to hear it. And for anybody who is super intelligent and hyper black and it's all in the messaging, I will never be mad at you. I will never be mad at you. Just don't be mad at me. As I said at the beginning in the monologue, and as I've said show after show after show, it shouldn't be an issue that I disagree with your stance. My blackness should never be brought into question because I don't see life through the lens that you see life. So, there is no way to go out if this is in fact his finale album. In my personal opinion, you would have to give us something else. That's just me. Now, I salute Cole for being true to who he is. But this just ain't it. All artists lose stardom, man. Especially when it comes to speaking what their truth is. Every dream lived comes with a burden to never lose the reason and passion for why you fell in love with it in the first place. J. Cole is one of the greatest rappers to ever live. Let's never forget that. But lack of appreciation is what drives people away. It creates frustration and disdain for what they do. I remember somebody said one time, people don't quit jobs, they quit people. When people feel undervalued, underappreciated, unloved, not respected, they'll leave a relationship, they'll leave a job, they'll leave a dream. Cole essentially hit us with the, here, man, damn. And I don't know how I really feel about it. What I will say is, whether it's Nicki Minaj, whether it's Trevor Noah saying his farewell to the Grammys after a 6-year run, first of all, let me take one detour and say, your Blazer game was phenomenal, my boy. He switched about 3 to 4 Blazers throughout the entire show, and he didn't miss with not one. That was style. I don't know if I care for a lot of the extra other stuff, but that was style. The over attention to Bad Bunny, some of it was just, we can tell when you're pandering to a culture. But as I was saying, whether it's J. Cole, Nicki Minaj, or Trevor Noah, what I think we can gather from this is that the fall off is inevitable indeed. What are your thoughts? How do we feel about the Grammys? That whole, you can't even separate it, right? All of it was literally clumped together to give out this grand messaging, what we should stand up for and how we should feel. I'm totally okay with the messaging as long as at the end of it, we are truly seeking to be cohesive. if you ask a black person, what is the first thing that they should do to band together? Most of them start griping and complaining about what we don't have. Nobody ever talks about group economics. And you know why? It is because we don't trust each other anyway. When's the last time you supported a black business? And if you supported a black business, when's the last time that they made a mistake? And when they made a mistake, not if, because all businesses make mistakes. How long did it take you to say, see, this is why we deal with white folks? The reality is we don't have grace for each other. We don't have grace for ourselves. And so therefore, the idea of coming together or engaging in group economics does not even sound like a real thing or a possibility. So I'll still reserve your space for you to talk about things that you would like to change in your Facebook post. I'll still allow you to believe that you taking issue with somebody not wanting to watch Bad Bunny perform or giving an ode to the LGBTQRSTLMNOP community is something that was offensive to you. But the reality is, black people will choose to marginalize themselves in support of other people and communities that would never support them in the same way. Either way, no matter how you slice it, as long as Black History Month is still confined to a month, and as long as we're not looking to live a life where we're making the new history, regardless of the color, we'll still be led in the way that we always have been, blindly. Listen, man, I ain't got much for you tonight. I've been up for a long time and I worked real hard today. I had to get my show out though. Listen, if in fact you are a first-time listener, I thank you for watching the Mind of a Man Network. I thank you for watching the Late Night Shift Live with your boy, your host, your player, your partner, Anthony Moore, Ant Mo, for those of you who know for sure. Please hit that like button and please subscribe. If you are part of my faithful few, I love you from the bottom of my corazón. That is hard in Spanish for those of you who care. As I end every show, life is hard enough, so please do not just live. Live elevated and be exceptional. Until next time, I love you. May the Lord keep you. I'll see you on the other side, kinfolk. Selah.